Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats at chess.com, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match played between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This match was played on board 86 of 210 boards. Our man is Danik1 against Chess Shadow 456. Rating advantage was about mid-17s versus mid-1600s, but by the time the second game was completed, Danik had shot well over 2,000, so he's doing quite well. Let's have a look at these two games and see what we can come up with. This game stays objectively even for a long time. It's a close Sicilian, and I don't think either side is really making any headway here. The close Sicilian, basically, White's not opening up the game with d4, and both sides start maneuvering more or less behind their pawns. Notice only the white knight is in front of the pawn. But White's got objective maybe later of pushing on with f5, trying to attack the black king, complete his development and push some pawns on the king side. Black usually tries to entertain some counterplay on the queen side by shoving those pawns. Let's see how it turns out. And again, both sides right now have most of their pieces behind their pawns, so kind of trench warfare. Neither side is confronting the other directly. Okay, now we have a piece go to a square in front of a pawn. Now both sides have one of those. Everything else is behind. Okay, now White decides to open up the position with the e5. Now, is this okay? Well, it's theoretically okay. It does eliminate the possibility of eventually pushing f5 because it hands the square right into Black's hands. So let's talk about that for a second. Was this a wise plan? Well, if you're playing for a win, it's going to be tougher to win, I think, from it. Maybe better is to try queen d2 and maybe bring this rook into play and consider ways to try to go about pushing through with f5. It's a long way. That's a long ways off. Black's got a lot of moves. What did I give White? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves. Black gets 6 moves too. 1, 2, 3, requiring another white move. 4, 5. I don't know what's going to happen. But both sides have plenty of play here. But I think e5 just makes the game more or less even. And let's see how it continues. So Black takes the f5 square happily. And now there's just a pair of knights is exchanged. White must retreat back to d1 to guard the c2 square. And Black wins a pawn, but he can't hold it, and we'll see why here. The pressure is on this pawn, and clearly b6 is going to run into some kind of a nasty discovery, picking up the rook. So Black tries to hold on to the pawn, but it's not going to work. And now White's regained his pawn. But where's White's attack? We've seen some piece confrontation. The pieces have come from behind the pawns. But here's a problem with White's setup. These guys are where they started. The queen did come out and she went back. White hasn't completed his development. For that matter, neither is Black. And as I say, I think the game stays objectively even. And now White decides he's going to expand on the queen side. Well, why? Because he shot his chances to attack on the king side by giving up the f5 square. And just some routine exchanges. Now maybe this is okay for White. He's suddenly got the a file. Black's not ready to oppose it. Black doesn't want to necessarily put the bishop here and give up the bishop pair, because White would, with a fairly open board, the two white bishops would probably be pretty strong. So he just does a little bit more maneuvering. And now if Black figures it's time to get rid of that knight so they can get the bishop out. But here White picked the wrong square to go to. This just hangs a pawn. White's got to play knight e4. And I think the game is still objectively even. Black will develop his bishop, and not much is going on. White has the potential of getting an outside pass pawn in the long run if it eventually gets c5 in, but is it enough to win? Well, it requires a mistake because neither side has got two weaknesses. Anyway, this just drops a pawn and then a second one here, and suddenly I think white game is going downhill fast. There's really no chance for him, and black plays some really nice moves to close this out quickly. We'll see how they go. Okay, h6. I'm not quite sure what he's doing with this move. Unless white's not trying to occupy g5 with anything. Maybe he's just clearing his back rank, but now since the white king's gone in the corner, little tempo on the bishop. And now the white king is kind of getting boxed in, and this is going to prove fatal here in a minute. And we'll see how. Now queen e2 is a nice active square. The rook is guarding the knight, and the queen is guarding the rook. So all black needs to do is somehow deflect that queen away, or create some threats. And he comes up with a very interesting plan here, because white slips up here. White should play knight c1 and chase the queen out of its fine post, although black is still clearly better with 2 pawns plus. But this allows a very interesting tactic, one I certainly didn't see coming. And, bishop b7. Hello, I'm threatening checkmate in 1. What are you going to do about it? Well, what is white going to do about it? You can't guard the bishop on g2, and it's pinned. It can't go to f1 or h3, so what's white going to do? Well, he takes it. And now suddenly the diagonal is shut down. If white takes the pawn on e4 to give the piece back, he gets checkmated because his king's in prison. And, white really has no defense here. And white plays knight c6 for want of anything else, and is met by queen f3 checkmate. So that was a nice tactic, bishop b7. I certainly didn't see it coming, and well played, Danik 1. Let's flip the board and bring up the other game. What move will it start it at? Hey, it started at the beginning, like it's supposed to. Okay, this game ends reasonably quickly. I think black misplayed the opening, although it was following theory. He didn't pick a, in my opinion, very wise line. Now, what's this, the Paulson or Kelly variation of the Sicilian? It's perfectly safe and solid. Black should be fine with it. And here's the system set up. The queen's going to c7, and these two squares, b5 and d5, are covered. So black is keeping the white bishop out of c4, and eventually plans to castle kingside, and then eventually push b5 and fianchetto the bishop on b7, or maybe the bishop will even go to d7. There are a number of options, but with databases and chess books, black should have nothing to fear with this opening. But I think he chooses the wrong line, and we'll get to that in a little bit. It did follow theory for a while, and here's where I think black started getting himself a bad game. Okay, what do you want to do in this position if you're black? Okay, for the moment, white's got 3 minors out, you've got 1. White's castled, you haven't. Yes, you got your queen developed, but it's time to get the rest of the guys going. So what does black need to do? Well, black needs to castle, and this is in effect the fact that black didn't get castled is what's going to cost him this game. So bishop e7 gets you closer to castling. Now maybe white's going to play f4. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't really know what theory is on all this. But you can stop e5 with d6, and the queen is safe on c7. We'll get the queenside pieces in play later, and black should be okay here. But instead, black plays b5. Now, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this move, and what's right with this move? Well, there's a lot of things right with it. One of the ideas that black is trying to do is kick this knight out. Okay, and fianchetto this bishop and put some pressure on e4. But you see, black is still 2 moves away from doing this, and it's white's turn. Okay? And this b5 move did not help this king get castled. So, the idea of going to b4 is really, it's not worth much. Okay? Let's just burn a move for white. Okay? Now you can play bishop b7, and now you're threatening b4, and if the knight moves, maybe you can rip this pawn off. Okay, so, but white has time to guard that pawn in all kinds of ways, so I think that this was a faulty strategy for black. Black should have simply played bishop e7, and then, maybe after bishop e3, get himself castled, and then you can think about how to deploy these guys and what to do with how you want to place these pawns. But anyway, after b5, white selects queen e2, and now e4 is well overprotected. And now black decides it's time to reinforce things, because white was, e5. White was ready to play e5. But, he's down this one critical tempo. You see, this bishop could be on e7, and white would have no threat. Okay? See the difference in the position? Black could have had, just imagine, see the 2 arrows, move the pawn backwards, and move the bishop forward. And it would be white's move, but white really has nothing. He could, develop a bishop, put a rook on d1, who knows what he wants to do, but then black will safely castle, and everything will be fine. So now, anyway, white plays a4, and what I noticed in theory is that white wins 75% of the time, or over 70% of the time this move is played. And in effect, what this does is it just basically destroys everything black was setting up in the early part. Because now this pawn goes to b4, and it's no longer on b5. And, one of the ideas is to do that, but you're doing that if you can get away with capturing on e4. And suddenly this pawn is now exposed and menaced, and black plays now a5 in order to secure that pawn. But there's a big problem what black has done here with this position. Way back at the beginning when I showed the basic setup with the queen on c7, the pawns on a6 and a6 and e6, come on, color it in, thank you, kept a knight out of b5 and d5. Well, now a knight's able to go to b5, or even a bishop, and and that square becomes critical. So black has given up a lot, and look at his development. He still has just 2 pieces out of the box. Okay, and it's now white's turn. So white decides, well, I'm going to open up the position, because when you have a development advantage, that's what you want to do. You want to open up the position, because the open lines and files and diagonals and all that stuff is going to be available for your forces, not your opponents. Now white's ready to win a pawn, so black pretty much has to take. Maybe he could try to get tricky with b3 or something, but that just sacrifices a pawn. It would save black the disaster it's going to happen, and he would have a strategically lost game. But that's pretty much where it's at. Now, if you're got like a 500 rating point advantage over your opponent, and have black here, b3 might be a good move, because you're giving up a pawn, but you're not going to get slaughtered as you would in the game. So we'll see what I mean in just a little bit. This knight can't move, okay? It can get back into play eventually. This knight's a little bit out of play. What's it attacking? Nothing. Well, it's attacking this, but that's covered. White can't put another attacker on this pawn. This knight's going to have to do some maneuvering to get back into play. So a high-rated player would be wise to sacrifice a pawn, because when black takes on c3, this brings the white knight back into play. And look at that b5 square. White has 3 pieces that are getting ready to occupy it. And still, black needs to find a way to get himself castled. He has to. His king is going to be in trouble here, and he makes a mistake and plays bishop b7. But, white was for choice here. It's just that simple. Black's game is not easy even after bishop e7. But it comes up here. He does get bishop e7 in. And maybe had he played that, he could have gotten himself castled, and white would just have the advantage of possession of the b5 square. And here it comes, knight cb5. And, you know, black just managed to get a couple pieces out, but suddenly his position's a little tricky. Where are you going to put the queen? Probably the best square was to go back to d8. But again, white's better. White's for choice here. White will just occupy the c file, threaten to bring the knight into c7, and black's in trouble. His rook is going to be menaced. And let's see. Let's take a look. Queen c7, rook c1. The threat is knight c7 check. If black castles, you could have played there anyway. Let's see. Let's take a quick look at that. I guess you're going to play there. Probably have other moves too. Now, where's this rook going to go? Here? Well, this is just asking for it. Hello. Suddenly, all kinds of critters are attacking a7. That rook's in trouble. So this just shows why you want to open up a position when you're ahead in development, because your pieces will take the open squares and lines and diagonals. So what black delaying castling really hurt him. But queen d8 might have been the best try, but you know, I'm thinking black is almost losing in this position. Black played queen d7, and now the position almost, they say, plays itself. White does come over here and threaten the check, and black covers it with knight c6, but white's winning, and he just uncorks the combination. Watch this, knight takes. And now simply comes back and attacks the bishop. Now, what's black going to do here? Well, if you retreat the bishop, you run into a very annoying pin, right? And here's the problem of the black king still being on his original square. So what are you going to do? If you guard, you know, this pin is not going, and it going away. Look at that. Bang. This rook is a goner. So black takes this pawn off, but now just a simple move, b3, and the bishop is trapped. It can't go anywhere. Now black castles, but too little too late. And this now, because it ended up costing him another piece, is we're unprotecting the e7 bishop. But black needed to get his bishop to safety. And now white's just a piece up for a pawn. It's just that simple. Black recovers one pawn, but this was a mistake. He's just running into a tactical refutation. Attacks the queen, and the queen really doesn't really have many good squares to go to. He picks a bad one. We'll see if there's any improvement here in a second. But after queen b4, knight c6 with a fork, and black's going to go down a second piece, and black turned his king over and resigned. But let's just see. Where else can black go? This diagonal's out. What about a3? Will that make it anywhere? I don't know. Let's see. Maybe this would have been a better choice. But you know, black's down a piece. This might have extended the game. Why not? You know, we can always just bring this rook back over here. Queen comes. Well, you better not go to c5. You might run into all kinds of nasties here. Let's see. Knight f5, queen c7, tempo. Where are you going to put the queen? At some point, you got to go back to d8. I mean, this is just crushing for white. You know, I'll take it. And there's probably better for white in here. This is just an idea. The alternative was, instead of going to c7, was to, well, is there an alternative? e5? Yes. e5. Might run into f4. That might be embarrassing. Let's not try c5. Let's try C3. That's not going to work too well. Yeah, see, we're back to this again. There's that fork. So, white was crushing. Anyway, well played by Danik. One. Yeah, it's kind of hard to deal with some of those crafty moves he came up with. But Chess Shadow 456, your Sicilian is perfectly solid opening, but you got to take care of your king. Anyway, I thank so much for your time. We're almost done with this match. I think I have another video to make. I've been pretty busy, but I'll get the other one out as soon as I can. And then there are 3 games left in the match. And when our guy gets 1 point or more, I'll make, provided they're not 2 draws, I will make more videos. But we're almost done. Thanks so much.